This week's first impressions video is on Forklift Simulator by Aerosoft Games. It is important to note that this game is in beta access and has not got a release date as of yet, so hopefully they take on the criticisms and suggestions that I have, because the game is just not quite there for me. However, we will go through the options as always, and we'll take you through some gameplay, and you can make your own decisions based on my observations. Your options then, and honestly, it looks very nice, but there are some concerns that I've got. Firstly, the really horrible sort of ticking sound that happens whenever you go across any of the options at all, and this carries over to the typing sound that you get when you go through the dialogue in the game. There is no voice acting, so it is all text-based, which is not really good enough in 2024 considering how much text there is to go through, and the clicking sound for me drives me insane. Unfortunately, the only way to turn this off is to turn off your sound effects, which means that the rest of the game is kind of ruined because they're not separated. Again, in 2024, I would expect much better. However, the options you do get, you can show the objective, show the dashboard, you have your unit measurements, you've got your language, you can invert your controls, you can have your default camera as your first person view or third person, you can change your camera sensitivity, you can have center steering on, shifting automatic or not. I would very highly recommend leaving it on automatic, and I will get to that in a second. You can have your automatic handbrake on, camera movement, damage to the forklift, beacon lights, and motion blur on or off. It does come with motion blur off, which is very, very good. Your graphics settings are also fairly robust. You have your screen mode. It does start on full screen. I would very highly recommend, if you're using multiple monitors, to switch it immediately to Windows borderless. Resolution, refresh rate, VSync on or off, and FPS limit. Honestly, all three of these, not really needed. You could probably get rid of refresh rate, keep VSync, and have FPS limit. I don't see why you would have all three, and I don't see why all three would be on all the time. If you turn VSync off, then, you know, the FPS limit makes sense. But in most games, the second you turn VSync on, the FPS limit is switched off because it's overridden by VSync. It doesn't make sense to leave both on at the same time. You can have your upscaling technology on or off, which gives you access to either AMD or NVIDIA, DLSS or FSR, which is really, really handy to have. And I do like the fact that it comes with both. You can have your AA to whatever you would like, and you can have your temporal anti-aliasing as well. Texture quality, geometry quality, quality of lighting effects, screen space reflections, ambient occlusion, and volumetric options are all available to allow you to really get to grips with the graphics of the game. What I will say is that the performance isn't amazing when it's all on high, but the actual graphics themselves are very, very pretty. They've done a very good job. Then you've got your audio settings. So here you've got your master, you've got speaker mode, SFX, forklift, music, and music volume. It does start the music volume on around 40%. I've turned it down a little bit more. And like I said earlier, it would be nice if they separated SFX into the sort of keypad tones and different volumes there, as opposed to just having it all lumped in, because if you want to turn one down, you have to turn it all down, and that's not really ideal. Lastly, and my biggest gripe with this game, is that you can only view controls. You can't change controls, and you can't have anything else added. This game does not come with controller support yet, nor does it come with wheel or joystick support. On a game that is all about driving forklifts, again, in 2024, this is simply not good enough. It makes the controls feel janky, it doesn't feel good to use them, it's a lot of messing around because you have to use your arrow keys to actually activate the forklift. There isn't even like mouse support outside of the camera. Again, this is in beta, so hopefully this will change and controller support and wheel and joystick support will come, because I think that's going to be the difference between the game being good and the game being absolutely amazing. It's also simply not good enough, and I'm getting really tired of games coming out that are designed around driving and wheels and then not having the wheel support to go with it. It defeats the point, and it's a crying shame, and it's why games like ETS and Farming Sim are going to continue to be the market leaders, because they have that native support. What is interesting about this game is the fact that you can view your different forklifts that are available. They don't have that many, but they do have a decent variety all the same. What's interesting about this is that it's freeform. You walk around the forklift and see it. You can't make any changes to it. I mean, it's a forklift. What are you going to do to them? But you can at least see them. It would be nice if you could maybe paint them a different color or get them in different companies or whatever. But I like the idea of walking around and seeing it. Again, you can change the forklift with enter and you can see the different ones they've got, and you can change your point of view. And they do have a decent range as well as the electric pallet truck as well. Once you're in the game, this is what you are sort of presented with. You are given a very baseline job where you have to walk around a warehouse, and as you level up you get more tasks given. The more tasks you complete successfully, the more equipment you'll get to use and things. It starts out very sort of benign and makes the point of a tutorial kind of moot because you have to go through and do everything anyway. There are some interesting cleaning up tasks where you have to go and tidy and sort out the pallets and make sure that they're in the right place before you move them, which is kind of cool. But it is very simplistic when you first start. You have to hit F1 and you have to do this numerous times to get each of the jobs. And you can keep an eye on the time at the top, which does seem to be running at real time. It doesn't seem to be very fast moving. So you are going to have to keep yourself rather busy before you can end the day. You can check the cargo. You can go through and check each of the jobs. And then once they're done, you will get a sort of invoice and itinerary of what you've done, whether there's any damage and how much you're getting paid for it. The annoying thing is, each time that you do start a job, you have to go through some dialogue, which takes time to load in and doesn't really make much sense. Just, I don't want to talk to my boss every time I want to do a new job and go through a dialect that doesn't really tell you anything. It's kind of pointless and detracts from the game. Movement wise though, you do have full movement of the camera and you can run and get to the points. The GPS isn't amazing, it is at the top, and the things that you need to move are highlighted here, and they sort of become quite apparent as to what it is that you need to do. It does tell you in the top left hand corner what it is you need to move and where you need to move it to, and then you can get onto your pallet truck and get on with the job. Now, the first thing that I would say as to why I am not overly happy with the fact that you don't get to use a controller or wheels is the fact that moving incrementally and moving to a sort of precise movement isn't easy with a keyboard. Like, it's all or nothing, which makes moving very, very difficult, especially if you want to do a slight maneuver. Once you've got by that, though, it's not bad and quite therapeutic to do. It is very, very finicky, and you do have to make sure that you get it exactly right, because if you don't, it won't lift it, and if you drop it, then you can do damage and lose money on the job. It only gets worse, this movement, when you start using a forklift itself, because you're moving much faster, and therefore you need to be a bit more defined with what you can do. Overall, though, the game is quite relaxing, and I think that it does have a lot of potential, and as you can see here, it does run rather smooth and does look very, very nice. My only concern is that, again, without controller and wheel support, you're not going to get the full value of the game. Also, outside of damage, there isn't really any penalties. Like, you've got the one-way system in the factory, and you've got all these rules and regulations, and you have to take a test before you can even play the game. But at the same time, like, it doesn't seem like there's any fail states. Like, you don't get told off if you get caught going the wrong way, for example. I feel that this, again, could sort of detract from the point of the game, because I haven't really seen any sort of reason to not just go any way you want. It doesn't seem to be a busy factory. There is only you that is working there. I like it though. I think the game's got potential, and I hope that they do address some of these things, and I pray upon pray that they do add that controller support, which is very, very needed. Thank you very much for watching this first impressions of Forklift Simulator. I hope you like what you've seen, and I hope to see you all next time. Ciao, ciao.